Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another interview episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's with me tonight?
Hey, guys. My name is Andrew Smith.
And where might people know you from?
I am the founder of From Gamers Magazine. It's a community-focused new print magazine that's funded solely on Kickstarter.
Which got my interest when I first heard it.
It's definitely been a journey, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I was surprised because, I mean, just the way that the current market is in the world, but so I was excited to see that someone is doing it. We actually have a mutual friend. That's how I found out about you.
Oh, yeah? Who's that?
Daniel Jones.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Who's been on my podcast a long-ass time ago. We covered Dino Crisis. In the 40s or something episode.
Oh, man.
But I do have a few questions I wanted to ask you. So what is your magazine that you just started first?
Yeah, so like I said, it's called From Gamers, and it was just born out of a desire to try something new. I've been around the gaming industry a little bit. It's not my full-time thing, but I was a freelancer. Started in college, and it's just kind of always been an interest. And I'm also the owner of a gaming guide site called Guidefall, so kind of got that rolling, and I just wanted to expand a little bit and try some new things and learn some new skills. So I was like, you know what could be better than trying to start a print magazine when print media is dying? So I was like, you know what, why not? Let's give it a go. So here we are. We're starting on issue 3, and Kickstarter's live for that right now. And it's been quite the journey. Learned quite a lot of things along the way, that's for sure.
No, I mean, print is definitely not dead as much as people act like it is. I worked in printing for a bunch of different jobs before. Far from dead, people like to act like it is.
Yeah. Well, that's what we found is, even though you see a lot of physical media, especially in the gaming space, going away and going digital, it's like at the end of the day, people still want to have something they can hold their hands on. People still want to flip the pages in a magazine, or people still want to hold a physical copy of the game themselves. I mean, there's a reason why all these indie games are getting physical releases from places like Limited Run Games, because people want to hold them, people want to display them on the shelves and show some love to their favorite media.
Yeah, there's something I don't collect. I'm mainly a Steam guy now when it comes to gaming, but I don't know how that happened. But just like recently, I just started buying tons of bundles. I'm like, I'm okay with this.
Sure.
Well, I moved twice, and that's kind of I have like 5 bookshelves next to me covered in PS2, PS3, 360, and I'm just PS4, and I'm like, I'm done.
Anytime you have to pack up the bookshelf, it makes you rethink collecting.
Yes. So first thing I wanted to ask you, because anytime I do an interview like that, I always kind of, before we get more into what you're up to, but what got you into gaming?
Yeah, so I started, I'm not too old, so I started on the GameCube back in the day when I was about 6 or 7 with some Mario Party. That was my first experience with gaming, is playing Mario Party with my sisters. And it just, I don't know, when you're 6 or 7, how experienced are you in gaming? But it's fun. And that's really the thing about gaming, is gaming should always be a fun experience for you. So a lot of fun with Mario Party, a lot of hours invested in Mario Party over the years, and that evolved into eventually the Wii as I got older, and then eventually as I got into middle school and high school, started dipping my toes into the online shooter world, which I am not very good at, I've found, but Xbox, and then now I'm all in with Series X and PlayStation 5, and just try to play as much as I can get my hands on. But it just started early with the classic games like Mario and all that kind of stuff, and just trying out new things along the way, finding out what you like, finding out what you don't like, and doing more of that.
Do you have a favorite style of game, or type, I should say? I'm
more of a fan of story-driven titles. I really like to not have the game lead me necessarily, but I like to unfold a story as I go. I'm not of a create your own story kind of guy too much. I like I like the Marvel movie style game where a story just unfolds along the way, and I can just experience and enjoy it. So something like God of War or something like that, where it just unfolds along the way for me, is really great.
Kind of the same way. I like the game to hold my hand. Just take me right along the way, but I don't like multiplayer experiences. I don't like anything competitive. I'm the kind of same way. I like just a nice story. That's all I want to play.
Which is kind of odd, since I'm the owner of a gaming guide site, which is like the totally opposite of all that. But personally, in my own gaming experience, when I'm playing games for pleasure, I find myself going for story games. But when it's time to get to work on the gaming guides, it's more of a let me find the biggest open world game I can find and go after it. Okay.
And what would you consider your favorite game?
Oh, wow. Tough question.
I know, loaded question.
As a Mario fan starting early, my favorite game is probably Super Mario Odyssey on the Switch. And, it's hard to say why it's my favorite game exactly, but I think just the time in my life I was in college, and it was like a game I played with all my roommates, and we all would come around together at night, and we would hunt down all the power moons and all the purple coins and all that good stuff. It's like one of the few games I've actually 100%ed all the way.
Nice.
So I don't know, the experience of playing with my roommates and we'd like pass around the Joy-Cons and just experience it together. And then just the fact that it's Mario. I just love Mario. And exploring all the different worlds and different environments and stuff is just hard to beat. But if I had to go an indie route, I would probably say What Remains of Edith Finch. Just the odd story mechanics and just, as a narrative guy, just the weird story. It's just fun.
That game hits me hard. I've played it multiple times.
It's just fun. It's a really good game that you can burn through in a day or two.
And again, mention that you did start a magazine. So I want to ask you, what inspired you to start a magazine in this day and age?
Sure. Well, like I said earlier, I was like, why not? I've never done this. I have no experience in print media whatsoever. And I was like, why not? Just try it. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? I'll throw it up on Kickstarter, and if it doesn't get funded, it doesn't get funded.
Yeah, you just walk away from it.
I had a little bit of a business experience with Guidefall, and that has grown well. And it started from 0 to it does about 400,000 views a month now. So
nice.
just growing that. And then I was like ready to try something else and kind of, especially with being a gaming guide site, like we don't really get to tell the fun stories in gaming. We're not really big on features and that kind of stuff because that's not really what we're about. So I was like, well, let me find an outlet where we can tell people's stories and we can tell people's experience with games and do it in a fun way that's not really being done as much anymore. So I was like, you know what? I gathered my business partner and I was like, just hear me out. I was like, what if we started a gaming magazine? And he's like, well, what do you know about print media? And I was like, not a thing. Not a thing, but we'll figure it out along the way. And so, but yeah, the idea behind it is just that it's community driven. We don't have a team of writers or anything like that. We just put it open for pitch call and anyone's welcome to submit. And we've had people with tons of gaming experience, written experience write for us. And we've had people with no written experience write for us. And it's just really a community thing. What the community wants to see is what we're going to try to do. And it's just all about making gaming fun and making the experience of reading a gaming magazine, again, just an enjoyable experience. Trying to reinvent the ideas of gaming magazines a little bit. I think back in the 90s and early 2000s, gaming magazines were the place to go for all your gaming news and your guides and your tips and your reviews. But that's not the case anymore. Everything's online within a matter of minutes once news releases. And so you kind of have to evolve as time evolves. And so we're trying to evolve the magazine a little bit, make it more of a place where you can read awesome stories about games and just relate to people's experience with games instead of a place where you're going to go to get the news or reviews and all that stuff.
You're making yourself stand out. And I also am a big fan of anything community driven because I feel like you get a type of spirit that you won't get normally. You'll find people that you wouldn't have found before that have stories come out of the woodwork. Like with this podcast, I like to always get different random people on that have never been on a podcast before just to hear their take on some game. So that's a cool thing.
Yeah, it's fun to just, issue 2, we have just an interesting story about how World of Warcraft and someone had, played World of Warcraft for like 15 years of their life and they pulled away from World of Warcraft to go to Final Fantasy and how Hurricane Katrina affected their decision to do all that. And it's like, yeah, that's just stuff you're not going to find on the internet. And it's just fun to hear people's stories. And you know what? I don't care about World of Warcraft at all, but I really enjoyed hearing the story. And it was it was one of my favorite pieces in the magazine.
Well, that emotional connection for people.
Right. It's always interesting to hear people's sides of the story. That's kind of what we want to do. And I wouldn't really call myself a journalist, but the idea of journalism is to tell people's stories and is to tell people's experiences. And that's just what we're here to do. We're trying to give them the platform and then let them share.
I mean, you're a magazine editor, so I guess you are a journalist now, whether you meant to be or not, technically.
Maybe so.
I think that's how it would work. What were some of the challenges you faced trying to get this off the ground? I'm assuming this must have been a task.
Yeah. Well, the biggest part was just honestly finding the audience. Most people would say in 2021, a gaming magazine is probably not the way to go. So it's like, how do we find an audience for this? We don't want to make it for 10 people to read it. And so it's like, how do we go about finding the audience, and how do we go about also finding an audience who's not just going to follow us on Twitter, but is going to donate to our Kickstarter campaign and help us raise the money? Because printing a physical thing is going to cost a good amount of money, and more than I honestly ever thought. So that was just the first part is how can we present this to people in a way that they enjoy, and it's not just like we're trying to make money off of you or something like that. How can we just really show that this is, we don't make any money off from gamers. So it's like, how can we just present this to you in a way? And it's like, we're making this for the community. This is really a community thing. And where can we find that group of people? And thankfully we were able to find it. So once we got that figured out, the next part was just figuring out how in the world to make a magazine. When I tell you I had zero idea how to make a magazine, I had zero idea. Like, I didn't even know what software to use. I don't know how to use it. I don't know about print and bleed and paper size and paper weight and all that stuff. So it's all been a learning curve that has also been a very expensive experience.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's where some of the best ideas come from, Jonah, when you're dropped into a frying pan. It's either fry or figure it out. Like,
yeah. I was like, well, great. We raised this money and people want 2 issues of the magazine. And I was like, how do I make a magazine? So I would like to think that the second issue is far better than the first issue, but both of them are good and I'm proud of both of them. And it's really just been, honestly, a fantastic experience that I wouldn't trade.
And it's funny when you mentioned bleed and paper size. I used to work in printing. I used to work at FedEx office for a year. So all those words, like, oh, I understand that completely. I never did layout, but I know.
So what you're telling me is I need to come to you next time I have a question about the proper bleed for a certain size magazine.
I know some. I know some of that stuff. I also used to work on big printing presses that would have printed magazines back in like the 2009, 2010, around that time. So I have some knowledge, very old knowledge.
Sure. Well, we'll put our brains together and see what we can come up with.
Well, I think I found, like, when it comes to like gaming magazines, there aren't many that are even out there physically anymore. You have Game Inform, and I think that's really the main one now. So I think it's, also super cool. You guys are, making something different, because I mean, I love Game Informer, but that's owned by GameStop. That's a whole nother mess of.
Sure.
So it's nice and really cool.
There's very few mass market magazines, and kind of what we found is there's a bunch of, in my time just trying to build a community and trying to just meet people along the way and learn from other people. I've found a few other very small niche magazines, like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Switch Player, but that's one of the leaders in Nintendo magazines. But it's just started by a guy like me who just kind of wanted to do something different, and he's found himself a nice audience. And I don't know, it's just nice to see someone do something different and people react to it in a positive way. So I was like, let's try it. Why not?
I mean, if you love it, that's what matters when it comes down to it.
Right. Definitely.
And what was your job before you started doing this magazine, or are you still have a day job?
I do. I am actually a full-time teacher and coach, which is kind of odd for someone in the gaming space to be, I don't know. It feels like sports and gaming don't often go together, but I'm a PE teacher and a basketball coach. So got that going in the day. And then when I come home from work, I work on Guidefall, work on From Gamers. So
I know how that goes.
Still plugging away at that.
Because for me, I work in sales now, but like the podcast, that's my baby, even though I don't.
Sure. Yeah.
So I completely understand.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. It's like I got my day job, and then I got my night job.
The important thing that you love the second job, especially if it doesn't pay you very much.
Definitely.
That's what I always got to say. And how did your family react when you told them you were going to start a magazine?
They were really great. They were a little not skeptical, but just confused at first, especially my parents don't have a history with gaming or anything like that, and I kind of prepped them for it in the fact that I started Guidefall and had done some freelance work for IGN and some other for IGN and some other outlets over the years. But so I kind of give them a little preview of what was about to happen. But they were very supportive, and they still are very supportive, and they are always quick to back when there's a new Kickstarter campaign. So it's nice to have family support, and they come over and they help me package the magazines when it's time to send them out. So I would be in big trouble if I had to do that all by myself. So
do you use FedEx, USPS, or UPS to ship?
I do USPS.
They're the cheapest. I just don't trust them, but they're good for magazines.
They're the cheapest. That's the problem, man. Especially shipping international. It's just
yes.
Definitely underestimated how much it's going to cost to ship international. And on the first Kickstarter campaign, I totally messed up the shipping. And on one of the tiers, I did not charge for international shipping. So I was having to foot the bill for the cost of 2 magazines shipping separately internationally, which is about $20 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, well, thankfully we kept it about 10 ounces, so it wasn't, too heavy of a shipment. But compared to US, which runs about $3 maybe for the magazine, it's painful to bite the bullet and eat the overall $40 cost when I forgot to charge.
If you would have shipped it FedEx and you would have fit it in a FedEx envelope, depending on what country you're going to, would have been anywhere from $50 to $90.
Yeah. I explored some different options, and I was like, well, USPS is definitely the only way to go, because FedEx and UPS is just too much.
I mean, they're reliable, because I used to work there. They're very reliable, a good company, but as I used to say, like when it came international, we were fast, we weren't cheap.
Right.
So
right.
That was our specialty. I used to always tell people that. So tell me a little bit about your magazine. I know you mentioned earlier, but is it mostly like you said you're covering do you cover mostly newer games?
Yeah, so we're a modern gaming magazine, and most of our focus is on modern gaming. We do have a retrospective every now and then. Like in the last issue, we had a nice piece about the best worlds of Super Mario 64.
Nice.
And just kind of touching on some old school gaming. But most of the time, we try to focus on recent releases, or every once in a while, we'll do something on upcoming games. Like we have a thing on kind of a preview on Elden Ring in issue 2, but we try to avoid, preview-y type stuff because it's just ever changing in the world of print. By the time you type something up in February, you print in March and you ship in April, and then your stuff's way outdated by the time it gets in the hands of people. There's been a new PlayStation event that reveals 100 new details about the game that you don't have. So we try to avoid that kind of stuff, but we do reviews and we do interviews and features and all that good stuff. So we try to touch on everything, but our main focus is trying to tell stories.
Yeah, that's what people want to hear too. People always remember those emotional stories that connect them to gaming. Like I know there's one story that has floated around the internet about the guy with some Xbox racing game where he raced the ghost of his dad after he passed away. Like, so that's awesome that you're doing that. That stuff I feel is going to connect with people and stay with people. Like I can't remember exactly where I read the article, but I still remember that article from over 10 years ago.
And that's the stuff that's gotten lost a bit. And not that it's necessarily it is a bad thing in a way, but not that it's a bad thing. But in the age of the internet, it's all SEO focused and how can I get my story to rank on the top of what people are searching. So You're not going to get a story very often about someone's personal experience with gaming unless it's from one of the biggest sites out there. And there's a lot of people with great stories that just aren't going to be able to tell their story at IGN or at Kotaku or at Polygon or at GameSpot or wherever else. So we're just trying to open up an outlet for people to share their experiences and their stories.
Pretty damn cool.
That's accessible and easy to come by.
And what are your future plans with the magazine?
That is a fantastic question. In my brain, where the world is perfect and things go exactly as planned, I would love it to be a quarterly magazine where we have a nice system of going to Kickstarter, getting funded, and then releasing a magazine every quarter. If we'll get there or not, I don't know, but that's kind of the end goal in my mind. But for right now, the plan is just to keep chugging along and making a magazine that people want to read and just trying to focus on the community and give people what they want. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are funding our magazine, and so we want to give them what they want. And like I said, right now we're in the middle of our issue 3 Kickstarter campaign, but it's really only our second campaign because the first one was a bundle of the first 2 magazines. But so right now we're just working through that, trying to get funded. We've got at the time of the recording, we've got about $1,000 left. I'm not sure when this is going live, but we've got about $1,000 left until we're funded, and then
early November.
There. Okay, so right about halfway. We'll have about 10 days left, maybe, but hopefully by the time people hear this, we will be fully funded. And I'm just going to try to speak that into existence right now. Fully funded, and our plan is once we get funded to open up for pitches and just start rolling from there. So we have some fun stretch goals this time. We're trying to reach. Add new content, some art cards and stuff like that. Just fun little goodies that can come with the magazine if we can exceed our goal. So we'll see where we end up. But
plus, I always like to quote. There was a Jason Mraz quote that I had heard, or at least a story at one time about the joy of creating things, where his wife had told him when he was upset, go create something, and that high of knowing that you created something. That's got to feel hella good when you held that first magazine in your hands. Definitely.
And when I see once all the issues get sent out, and I see people tagging us on Twitter and stuff, and just really enjoying the magazine, especially our writers who get to see their words in print, is just a fun. And that we don't show them the designs before we do it either. So they just hand us the story, and then a few months they get the magazine. So it's fun to see their reactions and their experiences with what we did with their words and how we put it into design. And that's another part about print media is you get not only to tell the story, but you get to also have a visual aspect to it and a fun visual aspect. So like, just for example, Best Worlds of Super Mario 64 piece we had in issue 2, we tried to design it to look like the inside of Peach's castle. And if you remember that game, it has, you like jump through the pictures to go into the different worlds. So our design is we have a bunch of picture frames on the wall, and it's like we have the fun Mario colorful text and all that stuff. And we just tried to, make it immersive. So it's almost like even before you see it, you feel like you're part of the story and you're connecting with that story before you even start reading it.
Pretty damn cool. That sounds really cool. And a lot of people love gaming magazines. I know at one point when I moved, I had a giant stack of Game Informers that I was lugging around for like 5-6 years at one point.
Sure, I have a Game Informer sitting on my table right now in front of me, actually.
Hey, great magazine also. Different style. I only had, one, I had them because of GameStop. I used to go there all the time.
Yeah,
so
sure.
That's another thing. But I didn't write this down, but I want, now that we've been talking, So when did you start Guidefall, your website?
Yeah, so that is about, let's see, that started in 2019. It's about 3 years old now. And like I said, I started off I was in college and I had a bunch of free time on my hands, and I was like, what else am I going to do? So, I'd seen people writing about games, and I was like, I'm going to try to give this a go. So I just applied for a position at some tiny little free site, writing for free and kind of learning the ropes and stuff like that. And then just over the months of doing that, I started pitching some bigger outlets, and honestly just sending out cold emails like, here's a few links to my work. I would love to cover this game for you or whatever. And one thing led to another, and I ended up at Game Revolution, writing for them, doing some guide work, and that kind of taught me a lot about Google and SEO and all that good stuff. And I just kind of delved into it a lot and really got a deeper understanding of it. And then so moved on from there and started doing some work for IGN. I ended up doing the Fortnite guides with IGN and was part of the news team there. So really learned a lot there. And eventually I was like, I'm just going to try to make something of my own. So I started that Guidefall in 2019. I think I was a junior in college, and I was like, I'm just gonna, just throw some stuff up on here and just practice, just practice what I'm learning and see if it really works, and see if you can really target what people are searching and all that good stuff. So one thing led to another, and that's just slowly grown over the years. And now we have a team of about 5 writers, and are just trying to be a positive outlet in the industry, and trying our best to pay our writers a fair rate and just all that good stuff.
That's cool. I'm just looking at your website as we've been talking. It looks pretty interesting. I see a lot of newer stuff too.
Yeah, and we try to supplement some of our stuff we try to do a little bit of news coverage, but I mean, at the end of the day, no one's going to come to my tiny website for news coverage. They're going to go to IGN, but we still try to be relevant, and we try to provide answers for the latest games. I mean, I used to say the mission statement was to help. It was kind of cheesy, but I was like, the mission statement is to help people spend less time on the internet and more time playing games. So we try to provide like a quick and short answer that's to the point. And, we don't want to be like those recipe websites where you have to read a story about how when they were 8 years old and they went to their grandma's house who made these amazing biscuits, and you have to scroll for 5 minutes down the page before you get to the actual recipe. We try to just tell you this is what we're going to show you. Here's the answer. And if you need some more information, we've got it below. But I don't know. We try to be short, quick, and to the point, and just help people get back to playing games.
That's better though. Like I know with IGN is one I'll go to every so often because I use a lot of guides because I cheat myself, as in the famous words of Ninja, when it comes to gaming. I love making that joke all the damn time in this show. But there have been times where I went to IGN, I'm trying to find like a simple guide, and I just can't find, I'll search the game, I'll click, and they won't even have a guide, but Google will still take me there.
They have an auto-populated page, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and nothing's there.
Right. We also try to focus more on not, I don't want to say specialty stuff, but we're probably not going to do a lot of, here's how to beat this mission in Cyberpunk 2077, because IGN and Forbes, for some reason, and Game Informer and all those other places are doing all that coverage. So we try to do more like, you can't find this certain item in this mission. Well, here's a quick short guide. Here's how to find X item and Y mission, and just provide a quick answer that people can quickly search and then put their phone down and get back to playing their favorite game.
Okay. I mean, hey, that's better though, because you're not wrong. You don't want to be stuck on the internet all the time trying to find something.
Right. We're just trying to hit that small market where there's still a little bit of a gap there, and like I said, just be a positive influence in the industry, and trying to teach some people what I've learned over the years about the gaming industry, and help people. If you want to be a writer, we'd love for you to come start at Guidefall and learn some stuff, and then move on somewhere else and make a good name for yourself.
The funny thing is, when you say that, is when I was younger, I actually tried to be a writer. When I was in high school, and right out of high school, I actually tried to get published a few times. I wrote short stories. I wrote a novel. I entered contests, but then my girlfriend got pregnant, and I'm like, well, then get a job immediately and start working.
So much for that. Yeah.
It's, but I always think about
definitely not the most lucrative industry, but
no, it's always impressive when I hear that. I love writing to this day. Still, I don't do it anymore. This is my version of creating something for the podcast, but so I get it. And you said you had wrote for IGN, so were you like a freelance writer then?
Yeah, so with IGN, I started, I had done some stuff for some, what I would call like mid-tier sites like Game Revolution, and I had done some stuff for, just some other mid-sized outlets like that. And I just sent a cold email to one of the guides editors over there, Sam Claiborne, and was like, here's some experience. If you have any any need for some guide help, I'd love to help. And he sent me back an email, which I didn't expect. He sent me back an email and he's like, here's 3 different guides we need. Which one do you want to do? And so I found myself doing the Hitman 2 guide for IGN, having not a single clue, yet again, not a single clue what I was doing, way in over my head, but managed to finish that and did a few more guides. And then one thing led to another, and I ended up on the Fortnite guy was leaving and the opportunity came. So ended up doing some Fortnite guides for IGN for about 3 or 4 seasons maybe, which great learning experience, a lot of work, as you can imagine with Fortnite, but it was good. And that led to an opportunity to be on the news team. So spent a few months there doing news coverage and guide coverage just as a freelance. While I was a student, had a lot of time between classes and stuff. And then had the opportunity to work with Prima Games doing guide coverage there, but that was a full-time position. So I had to give up, my other freelance opportunities and worked there for a little bit and decided not what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. So, and at that time I just graduated school. So I ended up just getting a full-time teaching job and working on Guidefall on the side. And now I don't really do any freelance work, but, Guidefall's grown to where it's not a full-time job, but it definitely takes up a lot of time. So I've been focused on that and just enjoying watching other people succeed and excel in the industry that I've known over the years.
It's a full-time passion type thing.
Sure.
I mean, that's kind of what these projects become in a way.
Definitely.
That was kind of cool. I'm looking at your website. So you do a lot of like new stuff on it. I know what you mean, like you were saying earlier, where people are going to come, but you never know. Sometimes people do like hearing someone that isn't like one of the big promoters or the ones where people make those like, oh, they're getting paid. Like, well, yeah, that's how the world works.
Right. Well, then we like to, all of our writers have different interests, and we like to give them an outlet to, share about their favorite game or what games they're looking forward to. And if they see news coverage about their favorite game and they want to write a story about it, we're happy for them to go for it and give them a little bit of money to do it. So it's really just about, like I said, trying to be a positive place in the game industry and try to really be a learning place for people who want to make a name for themselves, and a place where they won't get taken advantage of, and they'll get good advice and hopefully, good leadership from myself and the other owner, and, just give them a positive entrance into the gaming industry where they can, grow if they want to grow or hopefully stay with us, but grow if they want to grow and move on and just make a name for themselves. But our goal is for someone to make a big name for themselves and tell people they started at Guidefall. So that hasn't happened yet, but I'll let you know if it does.
I know exactly what you mean. One thing about what I do is I try to build lots of connection with people, so that way I help people, I inspire people and help people like with podcasts and things like that. So if something ever does happen, they remember you too. So
right. Like, when you get a job at IGN, just be sure to remember that you started at Guidefall and tell everybody about it.
Hey, nothing works better than word of mouth when it comes to in a sales thing. I mean, as a guy who works in sales, that works way more all about building that reputation up. And since we're almost at Halloween at the time of recording this, do you like horror games at all?
I am a big old baby, and I do not. I'm not a scary movie guy. I'm not a scary game guy. I don't like to be watching something and some ugly thing come scream at me on the screen and scare me. Not a fan.
I'm the same way. So I completely understand. I played a bunch of horror games just recently for the show because of the time recording this is right before Halloween. So for Spooktober, I do a horror game every week. And every year I hate it. I hate October so much.
Yeah. I'm a big old baby. I like to... I don't like scary movies. My girlfriend doesn't like scary movies, so we just stay away from it.
My wife loves horror movies, so I hate them, but she loves them.
Suffer through them with her, man. It's
I do,
part of the
sometimes.
Deal.
Not in theaters, though. I won't. Like, we were supposed to go see Nun in theaters a couple years ago for our honeymoon. I'm like, nope, I ain't sitting in. I can't do it.
You can't be embarrassed in public like that.
I can do it at home. It's just a big theater.
Right.
I'm like,
nope. You're at home. There's a bunch of other people around you, and it can't be screaming like a baby.
Yeah, just not my thing. Never has been. And one of the last questions I want to ask you is, what game are you currently playing?
Man, if only I had if I had as much time as I would like. Most recently is Deathloop. I haven't played as much of it as I would like, but I got a few hours into Deathloop, and I'm hoping to pick up Guardians of the Galaxy, but we'll see what happens with that. But so not actively playing anything, just with school and work and all that stuff. But started Deathloop not too long ago, enjoyed it, and then fell off the wagon a little bit. So I need to get myself back in it. But nothing too close on the horizon. I'm looking forward to Halo Infinite, and I'm looking forward.
That's coming out soon.
So we'll see if I can catch up on some games over Christmas and get back on track.
I always forget about Halo Infinite coming out because I just forget about the Xbox Series X right now.
Yeah, same. Well, I I always want to be into every single AAA game that comes out, and I get really excited about it, and then I sit down and play it, and I find that a lot of them I don't enjoy. So I really, really want to be a fan of the Marvel video games, and every time I play one, I just don't enjoy it. But I keep trying, and maybe one day I'll find one. I did enjoy Spider-Man, but
it's an older game, but the Captain America game based on the movie for 360 and PS3 is pretty good.
Pretty good? I'll have to try it sometime. And
the DS version of the Thor game based on the movie is actually pretty good too. It's a 2D side scroller.
I'll have to give those a go sometime. I was super hyped about the Avengers game, and
me too.
Gave it about an hour, and I was like, well, not for me.
I really want to play it, but when I heard all the bad news about it, I'm just waiting for like $10 someday, and I'm going to pick it up and excitedly play it.
Yeah, maybe it'll come to Game Pass one day.
I'm surprised it hasn't yet, to be honest, the way that game's been treated.
Man. Yeah.
But the Guardians game, I saw that's getting good reviews, though. So, hey, maybe we'll get a good Marvel game again.
All right. I have one of our writers is a guy Paul's reviewing it, so I'm gonna get him to give you the scoop and see if it's any good, or I can ask him some questions and decide if it's an Andrew game or not.
I'm hopeful it's good.
Before I shell out the cash for it.
I want to see Marvel make more good games like Spider-Man again.
Spider-Man was great. I love Spider-Man.
Yes, it was.
Looking forward to the sequel, and the Venom thing seems pretty cool too.
And before we wrap up, any last things you want to say that where people can find your magazine at? There will be a link in the show notes to your websites.
Yeah, just check out the Kickstarter, and if you miss the Kickstarter, you can get back issues at fromgamers.net as long as we have them. We still have a few copies of issue 2 left, so if you want to pick that up before you decide, we have physical copies of issue 2. No more of issue 1, unfortunately, but got some physical copies of issue 2, and there's always digital copies on there if you want to check it out. But like I said, we'd love your support, and we can't do it without the community. So we're always open to suggestions, and you're welcome to DM me on Twitter. I'm at _Andrew T. Smith. I'm always welcome to DM me on there or on the From Gamers Magazine Twitter and ask me any questions. I'm pretty responsive and happy to answer anything. But yeah, we just love for you to come check us out, and hopefully you'll like what we're doing.
All right. Well, you definitely got my interest. So I've been kind of jumping on your website. We've been talking, and it looks pretty damn cool. Yeah, and the guide vault and the magazine looks interesting.
I appreciate that.
So I want to thank you for coming on today to join me for this.
Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it. It's always fun to just talk to other gamers and get their story. So
you have my attention, that's for sure. So definitely go check. Anyone listening, definitely go check that out. You see the links in the show notes to his channels or his websites. And I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at HellHalfFury. You will see a link in the show notes to her TikTok. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. We are on YouTube. Only audio, but we're there. And if you want to help support this show, you can go join our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can vote in our monthly Patreon poll. You will see a link down the show notes, so definitely go check that out. And we will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.